All right. I think I'm ready. Am I ready? Am I ready? Doing these podcasts is a whole lot like inviting someone over for a meal. Let's just say a meal. Having company. It feels like I'm getting ready to have company. And there's a little bit of excitement, but there's also this very nervous preparation energy. It is the feeling of me wanting to do anything but face the moment now. Like before I do the podcast, I could suddenly find myself deep in journals from 5 years ago, looking at to-do lists from 5 years ago, being pleased with some of the things that naturally got ticked off my to-do list, but also actually taking on old projects. I don't know what that is about me confronting something in time. This is what performance feels like. Like you got it or you don't. Ready, set, go. It's a kind of like jumping off. And there's something about that. There's something about that in this time right now that I want to come back to. But for now, hi. What's going on anyway? Hello, I'm your host, Anne Headley, and this is my podcast, What is Going On Anyway, where I contemplate the current moon, wherever it is in its cycle, and what that means for me as a pathway through daily life. I wonder how universal themes show up for us through different moon cycles, and as I reach for meaning using my intuition and imagination to share with you, I find I am discovering a richness in the simplicity of paying attention to life exactly as it is. So let's dive in. Here we are in a full moon, the full buck moon. We're in the second half of July. So we've just begun the second part of this year of ours, 2024. And I was just listening to an astrologer give this advice. There's something about the current cycle that we're in, which is a completion that began in January 2023. So her suggestion to us was to look back to January 2023. What was happening for you then? What was beginning and emerging that might now feel like a completed cycle, where you might be able to look at that as a chapter and then see, because of that experience that you had, how are you now beginning again? I can't do that for you, of course, but I did look back through my stuff, and I went back to January 2023. What was happening for me then? And the biggest thing that popped out at me was how I was beginning this podcast in January 2023. And my thoughts and feelings and ideas about what it was that I was doing by beginning this were not, I want to say they were fine, but I had such a different idea about what this was before I did it. Now that I've done it for 18 months, I know what it actually is for me. And I feel like just landing there with that little tidbit of intuitive knowledge. I'm saying it this way because I think it's important. Like if we were going to have a little Post-it note about like, what can we know about this moment now that helps us make decisions and move forward, that really, and it's not like a Post-it note, it's like an anchor. This bit of knowledge anchors us into this moment so that we can do more of what we would actually like to do. And so let me try to pull that in for me, for me and you. What that means to me is we often have to start a thing without knowing actually what it will mean to us. We can't know. And this is really important that we still do it anyway. So when I started this podcast, I thought secretly, and this isn't something that I even feel comfortable talking about right now, like the secret of it was that this podcast was going to transform my life in so many ways, that I would be able to make money by podcasting, which is a total joke. I can make money in lots of different ways, but the podcast is not the thing that will probably ever make me the money, but it is the thing that I do consistently that creates a practice inside of me that supports anything that will also bring abundance back and money and goods and relationships and networks, like all the stuff that I think of in that realm of what do you need money for, comes through this regular practice of being myself. And that is what I have gotten by doing this. And I had absolutely no idea. And it was, beginning this podcast was really confrontive because I thought, I don't know who I'm trying to be. That's so funny to me because like you can't be anything other than yourself, right? But I had this misunderstanding that I could present something, not that it would be other than myself, but like my best self or my smartest self, or my most clever self, the one that could actually solve problems for other people. And that of course is, my codependence with its butt hanging out is me thinking that my value is how well I can solve problems for other people. And then that will ultimately keep me safe and give me a place in the world. And the biggest joke is that if you're alive, you got a place in the world. You belong. And it's like I keep trying to convince myself of this, that me simply being alive and taking up actual space is the point. And that because I am here, I am here. A long time ago when I was doing a lot more yoga practice and study, we did this chant. I am that I am. I am that I am. And we did it over and over and over. And I am that. I am that. I am that I am. Now, you might not be feeling like that is a profound thing. Somehow, getting it into my sense of understanding, I am. That's all I need to know. I'm here. I don't have to fight for my right to be here. Now, that sentence itself, right, is very political because we've had people throughout history actually, yes, having to fight for their right to be here. Or not their right to be here, but their right to have equal opportunities. That's a whole other realm of things. I'm just talking about my internal sense of I am here, and that's all I need to know. Let's move on from there. So in January 2023, I was still very, very much looking for ways to validate my existence as helper, my existence as somebody who was offering something to other people to validate her existence. Of course, I'm still doing that. Obviously, I'm still doing that. But my feeling around it has transformed just a little bit. I'm no longer doing this podcast for a bigger picture outside of myself, right? I'm doing it because this is an expression that feels good. I have become accustomed to being able to take a little bit of time every 2 weeks and express myself, and then share it with whoever wants to hear it. And that sense of that kind of broadcasting of it that's the part for me, that kind of letting it go, that takes it away from my control and my ability to curate the way people see me. And that sort of curation, or that wanting to control, is the kind of codependent addiction that I am trying to release myself from, of needing to be seen a certain way in order to protect myself and keep myself safe. So for me, what I'm seeing in this last 18-month cycle is it's like taking the safety harness off. There's something around that. Now, at the same time, I was there wanting to have some control over how I was being perceived. Back in 2023, early part of that year, I don't know if you remember this, some of us experimented with giving our images to an AI app, and then it fed back these AI-generated selfies. And some people didn't want to have any part of that. I was too curious not to do it. And the images that I got back astonished me, because they weren't, it's almost like if a person told me these things, I couldn't believe that they didn't have some bias or they didn't have some alternate reason to do it. But because it was AI giving me back these images that reflected this beautiful, mystical, adventurous, strong woman. Now, my friends could tell me that, and I would be like, that's what you think. But for AI to give me back this image of myself, I believed it in a way that I couldn't believe it from somebody that I'm in relationship with. There's something about it that gave me this wonderful reflection. It was like this mirror that I was looking into, and I thought, oh, you really see me this way? Now, whatever, I don't know all of what AI uses to give back these beautiful, I thought they were magical images, and I could see myself in them, even though, they're distorted and in sometimes they come back and they're quite disturbing, with 15 fingers and your eyes don't have pupils and, stuff like that. But many of the images were so inspiring to me. And something inside of me, how do I describe that? Something inside of me believed it and then wanted to do those things more. 2023 was the year that I did that performance with Kimberly Bartosik and pushed myself to think of myself as a performer again. And that was a wonderful thing. And now I'm finding myself saying yes to modeling and acting and performing, and letting myself be playful about it. And of course, it's confrontive too. We talked about that in, I don't know if it was the last podcast, or probably it was, about doing the nude modeling and all the stuff that it brought up for me. But that's good stuff. I love that I'm having the opportunity to revisit and heal some of the stuff that I really just wanted to kind of tuck away, file away, and not look at again. So what I'm wondering about this full moon for myself, but also I'm wondering about it for you, like I'm asking you this question, what's going on for you that maybe has come back round to itself, that started possibly in January 2023, and now you've come all the way around. So as you start a new cycle, you know something more about yourself. I know something more about myself than I did 18 months ago. And that's quite a lovely feeling to rest with right here at the end of July as we go into the rest of this year. It informs me in so many ways that I am allowed to seek my pleasure and not worry that that gets in the way of other people's busyness. I was just having this conversation this morning. I don't know how much detail I want to go into with this conversation, only because it's super boring. I know that's a big pause for a podcast right there. I'm just trying in this moment to see how quickly I can tell you. This task needed to be accomplished. And so there were several ways of doing it inside of a community family. One person could just go do it. One person could sacrifice what they had already planned to go do this thing. Or we could wait for the timing to be right for another person to do that errand when they were already going in that direction. And the old way of doing it would be one person sacrifices, hoping that somehow that sacrifice will pay off at some future time. And then there's the certainty of that person is the martyr. And hopefully there would be some payoff, and then the task gets accomplished. But we were having this conversation, Jason and I, about how could we relax into this problem and let other forces take over, other people's timings, other ways of solving a problem. And everybody holds their own, like if you've got your cards in your hand and it's like, these are the things that I want to do today. I would love it. It would make me feel happy and fulfilled. And I would feel adventurous and mystical by making choices based on my pleasure. And then you've got these cards in your hand and everybody sits around, and then there's a problem. There's a problem in the middle of the table and everybody's got their pleasure cards in their hand. And we're all together trying to solve this problem. And what if the rules of the game were nobody is allowed to fold their hand? Nobody's allowed to put their hands down and give up their pleasure cards. And so there's this deep trust that problems will still get solved and nobody has to sacrifice. This, to me, is a completely different way of working inside of a family or a community or a job type situation. Usually, somebody folds their pleasure cards, takes it all on, and then thinks that they're going to get like these IOU cards that they hold in their hand. And is it the universe or the family or the relationship that owes back to that person because they gave up their pleasure? And I just feel like if I could say it and it was true or make up the rules or something, is that I don't want anybody to fold their pleasure cards anymore. Because say that this errand that needed to get run could happen tomorrow because I was already going to have a massage and the store that it needed to be picked up at was right next door, and it was no problem for me to go have my massage, pick the thing up, come home and accomplish the task, rather than two people having to drop their pleasure cards to go pick up a thing that could be picked up the next day. I hope I'm not being too vague. I'm not trying to keep it a secret. It's just a super boring problem that involves a lot of people. But because it involves a lot of people, any one of those people could look at their pleasure cards in their hand and see, does this task that's not particularly fun for anybody, does it match close enough that one of those pleasure cards can still be used and the job can get done at the same time? I'm trying to paint this picture of the way I am wishing the world could work. And I'm not just wishing that the world could work this way. I see that as this full moon's promise to the world. So the practice would be hold your pleasure cards in your hand. And when there are task cards, things that really need to be accomplished, see if they can be paired with a pleasure card, and believe that someone's pleasure matches every single thing that needs to be accomplished, that they can be conjunct to one another and support one another. Yeah. I don't know if I can be more clear about it. I think I'm just going to repeat that over and over again, which maybe that's not a terrible thing, but it makes sense to me. So I'm thinking that this full moon, with everything that we've sorted inside of ourselves for the past 18 months, whether we really know it or not, that we can move forward. And the reason I'm saying this is because those IOU cards, which I have held in my hand, I mean, like, I'll give up my pleasure if I get one of those IOU cards. Those IOU cards have turned out to be false or scammy, or they're not. Those IOU cards belong to a different world than the one that we want to live in. So it's sad because, I've got a lot of them. I've talked about my trunk full of them before. But those things need to go in order to step into the new game or the new way of playing with these pleasure cards that we have. So it's like, can you think about those things? It's like, oh my gosh, I did all of this for so long for other people, hoping that I would have some relief someday. And the funniest thing is, like, whenever I have these moments of relaxation, I don't have to do something. I could sit outside with a cup of tea and enjoy the garden. And I find myself still wanting to, instead of taking that pleasure, I find myself anxiously wanting to still practice accumulating more IOU cards. Like, even if it's for my own self, like when I have the choice to do something pleasurable or try to accomplish something that will make me feel like that I deserve pleasure. Is that clear? It's like I'm always, before I'll go down to do artwork, which I love to do, I will think that I need to fold my laundry first. And I could reverse that. I could reverse that inside of myself. I just haven't quite done that yet. That if I did pleasure first, I have this fear, and maybe this conditioned fear, that, I would never do any of the important things ever again. I don't think it's true, but that's the conditioning inside of me. So I was curious about this, right? And wanting to know, what does the I Ching think about this? Instead of going into a big question with the I Ching, I just said, hey, 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 what is our hexagram for this full moon cycle? What is it? I didn't ask what's best for us to know or what's the most beneficial or benevolent thing that we can know. Just what is it? And we got 10, treading, moving to 25 without entanglement. And I just could not be more beautiful of a reading to get for what I'm thinking and feeling about this moment now. 10 treading has these key questions. Where is the tiger? And to me, that is a delicious question. If I just started with that, where is the tiger is so evocative of a question. And you have to ask yourself, if you say, where is the tiger? I mean, it's important to know, what is the tiger too? What is your tiger? What is that? Is it dangerous? Is it courageous? Is it powerful? So where is the tiger? And the second question is, do you know how to work with such power? And with those two questions together, the tiger is, what is the tiger in you? And do you know how to work with that kind of energy that exists inside of you? There are tigers in the outer world and also inner tigers. And as you get close, it's good to recognize the tiger for what it is. Treading the tiger's tail is perilous, yet if you move in harmony with it, you can invite its power into your own life as protection, fertility, and blessing. To do this without getting bitten requires both skill and care. Look to the power and intensity you are drawn to. Its specific danger is there, and also its potential gift. The power and intensity that you're drawn to me, that's a pleasure seeking. So, I did this podcast. I didn't do it because I didn't want to. I wanted to, and there is a power and an intensity in being in this realm. So I would ask you to look at anything that you find pleasurable. Food making, love making, gardening, art making. Now, of course, that's not the realm of pleasure. There are so many things that, I can't think of anything that is a doing in the world that cannot also be parallel to pleasure. So what is that for you? And how is that your superpower? It does have changing line too. And here's what it says about that. Hermits are hidden people in retreat in the mountains. They walk their path with constancy, freedom, and ease because they are not concerned with anything other than their path. Now, we're not hermits, any of us, but your pleasure exists as a hermit within you, right? Like so often we push it so far away that our pleasure may as well live on a mountainside inside of us. But that our pleasure has to walk with constancy, freedom, and ease. And so we have to put it wherever it can be in order to stay that way. So as we bring our pleasure out into our regular lives, we somehow have to protect that so that it always feels that it's walking with constancy, freedom, and ease. Okay. I'm distorting this a little bit, but that's my prerogative, right? They don't take on responsibilities that are not their own. They are not influenced by negative relationships. Now they're talking about the hermits. Don't take on responsibilities that are not their own. They are not influenced by negative relationships. They don't act out of the desire to have a particular effect or get a particular reaction from others. And so their path is naturally smooth and their treading is harmonious. And I'm saying in this case, what if the hermit is our pleasure cards? So we're moving into this place where we need to be able to play our pleasure cards, and we need them also not to be hermits hidden in the mountain that can never come out and interact with anyone else. So you know how you have your inner fantasies and your imagination, and you can do anything there, because oftentimes when we ride along the flow of our imagination and our fantasies, we are like hermits hidden in the mountain. We don't have to tell anybody or interact with anyone. So it smoothly flows through our imagination. Or I hope that's the way it is for you. And if it's not, could you just practice a little bit more, just imagining really well and thoroughly? Because that is the place where we begin to form the ways of being that are really expressive of who we are. And the who we are that is just here taking up space, the totally, fully ordinary, regular self. And the imagination that that self has the potential to have is the magic that we have inside of our hands. So that's the power that I think this hexagram is talking about, how deeply powerful we are when we are being as ordinary and as regular, as mundane as being ourselves. I'm going to read this changing line again. They don't act out of the desire to have a particular effect or get a particular reaction from others. Now, so many of us are conditioned to behave in order to get a particular effect or get a particular reaction from others. And that is what I feel like I wish for. My deep prayer for the world right now is that we don't act from that place, but we act from the place that satisfies ourselves more and more. We do a thing because it pleases us. There's a word for that. Is that being hedonistic? I'm going to have to actually pause this and look that up just a sec. I was right. Devoted to the pursuit of pleasure, of relating to or characterized by hedonism, a hedonistic lifestyle, a city known for its wild hedonistic nightlife. I've only ever thought about that word in a negative way, that you wouldn't want to be hedonistic, like, because I always thought, well, hedonism is like Satanism, right? I'm pretty sure they're the same. Oh God, like that would be that's living and behaving in ways that mean you have as much pleasure as possible, according to the belief that the most important thing in life is to enjoy yourself. Oh no, I'm a hedonist. Oh, I'm a hedonist. I wasn't ready to know that. Oh, it's going to take me a little bit of time to process that. Okay. Can we talk about that later, and we'll get into where this hexagram is moving. So it's moving to 25. And this is what I love so much. Like 25 to me is the promise that it's all going to be okay. You know, here I am being worried about, I didn't think I was going to grow up to be a hedonist. Like, it's not how I was raised. Hexagram 25, without entanglement. Okay. So this is the part. Entanglement to me is codependency. And I am trying to get away from that. I do not think that it benefits anyone for one person to sacrifice themselves, hoping that they will get their dues repaid to them in heaven or something like that. So if all of this moves to hexagram 25 without entanglement, then it makes me feel like if we could each take care of ourselves and our pleasure, then we can create relationships which are without false bonds. So the question to ask is, what is real? What is genuinely your responsibility? And what is not yours at all? To be entangled is to be caught up in futile, groundless things, deluded beliefs or reckless actions, or a compulsion to rewrite the past, or this is the ding, 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 means codependency, control the future. When you are without entanglement, you recognize what is not yours, and you will not take it on. Sometimes other people's problems are not yours to solve. Sometimes bad things happen to you and are not your responsibility. Freedom from entanglement brings extraordinary energy. It liberates the whole creative flow from source to enduring fruition, natural and spontaneous as a growing plant. This is the creative potential latent in the present moment. To connect with it, you need to be conscious of your place on the earth and set yourself straight accordingly. Oh, that's so good, right? I've been hearing this phrase in my head for a while now. Where is your center ground? I want to be center grounded. Center grounded. And when I say those words in my head, I can feel myself rooting down through my spine, down through my feet, and connecting to wherever I happen to be, in whatever moment I happen to be. I spend a lot of time with my neighbor who has dementia, and I ask myself, in order to have the endurance for it, I ask myself, where is your center ground? Where is your center ground? And I keep pulling myself back into my center groundedness while I'm listening to and relating to his stories. So speaking of pleasure, this weekend I went to see Sean Dorsey dance at Bates Dance Festival. It was fabulous. And at the end of the performance, Sean came out and he read this, well, it was memorized. He didn't read it off of a piece of paper. The Futurist pledge that it's his heart work. And his dancing and performance with his company were very much about this. He left copies of these for us, and he said, distribute it widely. So this is how I will share Sean's words with all of us, because it's also wildly connected to this full moon. It's called the Futurist Pledge, and you can find it, download it, print it from www.seandorsey.com, SeanDorseydance, Sean Dorsey Dance. The Futurist Pledge. I am precious. I am worthy. I am worthy of love. I am worthy of self-love. I deserve well-being. I deserve healing. I deserve liberation. I deserve to be uplifted, protected, and celebrated. I am deserving of joy. I want to feel pleasure without guilt. I want to dream wildly. Like all beings, I am whole, and I am connected to all beings. I am connected to my ancestors and to generations yet to come. My liberation is connected to all beings' liberation. My joy is connected to your joy, is connected to my well-being, is connected to your well-being, is connected to the planet's well-being, is connected to our collective love that drives our collective liberation. Today, I declare that a future of joy and pleasure and love and well-being and liberation is my birthright. Love always, Anne. 7/21/24. It's a contract you can print out for yourself. So if you want to, do it. And that's part of all of this. I got to go back a little bit. This is the creative potential latent in the present moment. To connect with it, you need to be conscious of your place on the earth and set yourself straight accordingly. Entanglements are groundless. If you realign your course with present reality, you are well grounded. If you don't, you will make bad mistakes. Can't say they didn't warn us. Now is a good time to reevaluate your plans, dreams, and goals. Imagining new places to go is of no use if you can't see where you are. And in any case, even the clearest of plans is not immune to chance. I just love it. I love it. And I'm going to go back to another description of treading, which is hexagram 10, the first one we got. Treading describes your situation in terms of how you find and make your way. So this is what we're trying to do here right now, is how do you make your way? How do you walk? The way to deal with it is to proceed step by step. The path is there. Practice. Think about the right way to act and how to gain your livelihood. You are walking in the tracks of a tiger, a powerful and dangerous being. If you are careful, this being will give you what you need to exist and frighten off what is trying to harm you. Speak with it and partake of its power and intelligence. Don't do anything to make it bite you. You can't afford to sneer and scold. This is pleasing to the spirits. Through it, they will give you success, effective power, and the capacity to bring the situation to maturity. I love it. I love the imagery or the question and what that does to my imagination. Where is the tiger? Where is the tiger? Where is your tiger? Who and what is your tiger? What is the power that you have by being ordinarily you? Not the best version of you. You know, the sleepy, snotty, eye crumbs. What are those called? The sand in your eye? Eye boogers. The one that just wakes up in the morning and isn't ready for anything. Where is the tiger there? And can you see the power in letting go of any pretense about who you are? Embracing your ordinary self and letting that be the magic that you're bringing to the world. Just holding and taking up the space that you naturally do. And can you see the tiger in there? These are the questions that I have for you. You know, I mean, they're the questions that I have for me. So I think we've got it. That is our full moon, end of July. Our next new moon coming up in August, who knows? But can we just rest with these ideas around your ordinary self is the most powerful ally that you have. So what are you going to do with that? You can always reach out to me through the interwebs at www.annheadley.com. You can send me easy support through Patreon. You know, I said I was going to quit, and then I saw some other like Instagram influencer, and she was like, hey, I don't do anything at Patreon, but if you want to give me some money through Patreon, go ahead. I did look into like deleting it, but there is content there that I don't want to lose. And so it's going to stay. And I'm just going to be okay with that in my ordinary, regular self that did that once. So if you want to reach out to me through Patreon, that's wonderful too. www.patreon.com/watermoonstudios. Until next moon and next podcast, may you be well, may you be ordinary, may you take up all the space that you do in every way that you do. I'm very glad that you're here. I'm very glad that I'm here. May you be well, and may you know peace. May all beings everywhere, whether known to me or unknown, be well, and may they know peace. See you next time. Bye-bye.